Hi, it's Glenn Murcutt, architect from Sydney, Australia. You're listening to US Modernist Radio.
Mama don't allow no architecture around here. Mama don't allow no architecture around here. Oh, I don't care what Mama don't allow, gonna draw mine modern anyhow. Mama don't allow no architecture around here.
Welcome to US Modernist Radio, where we talk and laugh with people who enjoy, own, create, dream about, preserve, love, and hate modernist architecture, the most exciting and controversial buildings in the world. I'm Tom Guild. The town of Lancaster, Ohio, is famous as the birthplace of David Graf, best known as Sergeant Eugene Tackleberry in the Police Academy series. Lancaster is also famous for glassware, and their best-known creative rebel was Fran Taylor. From 1939 to 1962, Taylor ran GayFad Studios, and now, more than 60 years after her business closed, partners Jason and David Annecy have revived the brand, opened a store, and they held Bottoms Up, a wildly successful mid-century barware show this past summer. USModernist was there, interviewing today's guest, David and Jason Annecy, Josh Agle, a.k.a. Shag, and the lady you need to see about barware, the barware lady, Amy Chastek. And now, here's your host, Mr. Modernism, George Smart.
Thanks, Tom. I want to give a big shout-out today to a mid-century icon, if your jam is lovable lushes. According to Wikipedia, comedian Foster Brooks, who died in 2001, was introduced at a North Carolina charity golf tournament to crooner Perry Como, who gave Brooks his major break opening for Como in Vegas.
Yeah, we used to see Perry all the time here.
Oh, yeah. Brooks was an instant hit. He made his first appearance on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson and appeared there countless times, and also on the Dean Martin Celebrity Roasts. His signature routine was the lovable lush, a conventioneer who wasn't falling down drunk, but inebriated enough to slur his words and burp to the delight of fans. But when public sensibilities about drunkenness changed by the 80s, Brooks moved away from his character. His last performance as the Lush was at a celebrity roast in Vegas for Zsa Zsa Gabor. You can see many clips of his work, especially those hilarious Dean Martin roasts, on YouTube. You won't want to laugh. You aren't supposed to laugh, but you will. US Modernist Radio is underwritten by June Goldfinger and Jeff Taylor, sponsors of Circle, Square, Triangle, a traveling exhibition on the architecture of Myron Goldfinger, and by Diane Bald and the Budman family, restoring significant architecture in Los Angeles, Toronto, Malibu, and Palm Springs.
From 1939 to 1962, GayFad Studios was the toast of Lancaster, Ohio, turning out unique barware that made its way into many modernist homes of the era. Partners in business and in life, Jason and David Annecy have revived the brand, opened a store, and they held Bottoms Up, a very successful mid-century barware show that debuted this past summer. The event was a huge hit, and at the end, they announced the next one for summer 2025. From the community room at the Masonic Temple in downtown Lancaster, Ohio, here's George's interview with Jason and David Annecy.
I'm in the dining room of a Masonic lodge in Lancaster, Ohio, that has been transformed into this magical place. And it's called the Bottoms Up. And with me today are David and Jason, who are organizing this festival. And I got to say, driving into town, you can tell that the whole town is kind of electrified by this, guys. It's really great what you have done. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for being here. It's really amazing to think about 4 months ago we had this crazy idea, and everybody else didn't think it was just as crazy, and they got behind it, and here we are holding a beautiful weekend event celebrating mid-century barware culture, and it's really been a wonderful weekend so far.
Yeah, we really appreciate how much the entire city has come behind this, the amount of enthusiasm and the work that people have put into it, and we're delighted to be experiencing it now, seeing it all come together.
So this guy started just 4 months ago?
It did. It was a wild idea that we had. wanting to find a way to bring the West Coast culture around mid-century. We've been going out to the Modernism show in Palm Springs for the last year and a half and love the community that they've built out there. And we thought, what if we could do something here in Lancaster, but celebrate our Glasstown history and use something that's more authentic to our current history and heritage? And so we had a really long conversation with a really dear friend of ours, Jeanette Harborfield, who is the current director of our tourism bureau. And the three of us kind of came up with this wild concoction of an event and decided in late February that we were going to go with it. And it's literally been a wild ride in the last 3.5 months trying to pull all this together.
Besides this expo of vendors that we're sitting in right now, you all have events all over the city. What are some of the different things that are going on this weekend?
Oh my gosh, there are so many exciting offerings that are occurring. I think one of the ones we were definitely most excited about was the O'Hood's Gaelic Pub, which was converted by Shipwreck Shirley's and Ambiance Events and some volunteers, where they converted it into the Kahiki, a Polynesian restaurant that used to exist in Columbus, Ohio for many decades. By bringing that tiki culture into a Gaelic pub, you can imagine the amount of work that it took to not only decorate, but also come up with fantastic Polynesian drinks, dancers, different DJs playing exotica music, a wide variety of offerings. But I think it shows the dedication of a lot of enthusiasm around this idea about bringing glassware and barware and the things of the mid-century era together, not only through the shopping at the expo, but also so many different experiential things throughout the town that people have really enjoyed. In addition, I would say the Ohio Glass Museum, which showcases original Anchor Hocking glass, brought in Jonathan Capps. He was a recent contestant on Blown Away, a Netflix TV show, season 4. Bringing in someone of his caliber to do demonstrations, showing Anchor Hocking glass, which was literally produced right down the street. Things like that mean a lot to us because it's showcasing our natural DNA, things that make us a glass town and have made us a glass town for 120 years. But by doing an event like this, it's remixing it. It's shining it up and putting a fresh identity on it. And I think that's what everyone has really enjoyed.
Yeah, and the way that we branded that is mid-mod, Midwest style. So come to Glass Country, have a glass town experience, and celebrate mid-century barware culture. So beyond our shows and some of the major guest artists that we've had, we partnered with 40 downtown businesses in our community to pull together and offer any kind of mid-century tiki special. So it's pretty unique to come through a historical downtown, and no matter what bar, restaurant, or retail store you go to, you're going to have a cool experience.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was really a fun part for us to see our whole community band together and be excited to host a unique, first-of-its-kind event like this.
Now, what is the history? What is the glass history here that you've mentioned?
Yeah.
Why is this glass town?
Anchor Hocking Glassware has been in production here for 120 years. I believe they started in 1906 or 1908, and since then, at times, have been the largest glassware producer in the world. And always a major player, not only in the United States, but globally in production of glassware, especially tabletop glassware. There's also a tied history between our company, GayFad Studios, who also existed here in Lancaster as a glassware decorating business. So they'd buy those blank glass from Anchor Hocking, bring them in-house, and do beautiful mid-century modern decorations on barware and resell those items. So beyond even those two companies, we've had probably about 7 or 8 other major glassware producers in Lancaster in the last 100 years, most of which focused on tabletop, but many were blown glass studios. We had manufacturing windows for cars and buildings, and even had other companies that did scientific glassware like beakers and tubes and other kind of items for science. So there's a really, really, really rich history, not only in our town, but this entire region of Ohio. And a lot of that's because of our natural resources of silica sand and natural gas. So Southwest, Central, and Southeast Ohio have been the mecca of glassware production in the United States for centuries.
Now, you are recreating some of these, right, in your business. So what are the plans for that?
By reviving GayFad Studios, a significant mid-century decorating glassware business that existed from 1939 to 1962, you can imagine the joy that we have to take something that was honestly largely unknown. A lot of people had forgotten about the existence of the company, about Fran Taylor and her wonderful story.
She was the founder, right?
She was the founder, yes. So by reviving this company and really finding new ways to create mid-century glass with the same methods, but with new styles, with new colors, things that people respond to today, it's so invigorating to see. And even just for this show alone, we ended up designing and manufacturing 10 new glass styles so that people that are new to the town would really enjoy seeing how much was put into the creation of this glass and really reigniting a legacy.
Now, if my internet research is correct, the two of you are newlyweds, right?
Well, we got married in 2019, so we've been married almost 5 years.
I saw some of the wedding photos. It was really fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Another event that we decided to do everything ourselves, which was a little hectic, but we got it through it.
Yeah, when we planned our wedding, it was a 4-day weekend, so 4 days worth of events. And so when we thought about doing bottoms up, we thought, well, we've done a wedding.
Yeah.
So.
The gay audacity.
Sure. You have gotten all kinds of groups involved. The Convention and Visitors Bureau, the library system here
Correct.
has been a major player. You had Josh Agle, Shag come to town, right?
Absolutely, which was really amazing. I mean, the caliber of artists and people involved, including yourself, coming all the way here to our little community in southeastern Ohio is pretty special to us. We met Josh when we were out in Palm Springs at the Modernism show and formed a relationship with him to start producing some of his glassware designs.
Okay.
And we were just like, hey, by the way, we're also going to do this Barware show. Would you want to be involved? And that's how everything really quickly unfolded. And he was gracious enough to say yes to most of the recommendations we had for a presentation and a pop-up, and even getting him connected with the Decorative Arts Center of Ohio to do a 3-month-long exhibit.
Oh, wow.
So we were so just appreciative of how generous so many people have been and the excitement they've had to be a part of this. It's been pretty cool.
How many people do you think have attended everything so far?
Oh, my goodness.
Rough guess.
That's a hard one. We've both been split in different events all weekend long. I would say 10,000.
Yeah, it's hard to say because we're going to have to tally everything up at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But just by gaining feedback from the various businesses in our downtown, they have said they've never seen anything like this.
They've all had record sales and attendance and
wow.
Best nights ever.
Since
in business. So to know that and compared to many other events we have downtown, like Art Walk in particular, normally we have about 20,000 people just in about a 6-hour time frame. It'll be hard to gauge, but I work with the Visitors Bureau, and we have a lot of tools where we can do cell phone data and see how many cell phones were tracked coming into a certain area in downtown that normally aren't here.
Really? Are you part of the CIA?
No. It's all of those permissions that you give other apps. Yep, that data's out there, and we just pay for it. So we use that to track success of all of our events. And as we pay for marketing from a visitor's perspective and figure out what is working, we use that real-time data to really inform how we are structuring events. So in a couple weeks, we'll know exactly how many people were here.
Right.
With all the conversations that we've had, speaking with attendees, it has been so uplifting to hear people say, I flew in from Tampa, I flew in from Colorado or Arizona or Texas. People were really drawn to this. And on top of it, they've all said how much they've had a great time. They loved how the caliber of the vendors that came to the vendor show, the organization, and all the wide variety of offerings. That means a lot to us. It means a lot to hear that they had a great time, and that I think from this we see a really bright future.
Yeah.
Well, clearly there's a key to the city in your future. I think here. These economic drivers get recognized pretty quickly.
Sure.
And I assume, based on all this, you're planning to do this again in 2025?
Absolutely.
Right.
We've already selected the dates.
Okay.
It will be June 27th, 28th, and 29th. It's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the last weekend in June 2025. And this evening at our last closeout event, we will be announcing that kickoff events.
Okay.
So I don't know, is this a good time to pull it
Yeah,
up since
I
this is going
think
to air
so.
much later?
Drum roll, please. That's
I'll let
good.
you
Good
do
sound
it.
effect. Excellent.
We have partnered with a local winery here in town owned by Barry and Jennifer Ronimus. It's called Ronimus Cellars. They are Lancaster residents who moved to California for 30 years and just came back and are passionate about the community and building a beautiful Frank Lloyd Wright-inspired winery. And when we have our event this evening, we're actually going to go take a tour of that winery. That will be our kickoff location for next year.
Okay.
And another exciting piece for us is that we are going to be partnering with Atomic Ranch Magazine as a key sponsor, not only for the weekend, but for that kickoff event as well.
Okay.
So we are excited for them to come join us and be here in person and be a part of our team to help market the event next year. So we've already seen a lot of interest from other national, regional, and local businesses and magazines and media outlets that see the potential and are excited to be a part of that. So we are going to be kicking off another 3-day weekend next year for sure.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
And people can fly into Columbus if they're coming from somewhere else, which is very close by.
Yep.
Yes.
Just
yeah.
half an hour away.
Yeah, it's really easy to get here, flying into Columbus, and then people ask, so where should I stay? Well, the great thing is that very close nearby is the Hocking Valley, and the Hocking Valley offers 5,000 different dwellings that are nestled in the woods of a big national park. And what's really great about this is that when I say dwellings, it's not just a cabin. It could be a lodge. It could be
A cave.
a cave.
Treehouse.
Yes, so many.
A yurt, perhaps.
Oh,
yes,
yeah,
there's
yeah.
yurts. Yeah, a train car. There's a really great way that even mid-century homes are down there. There's a lot for people to experience, and by having that opportunity to not only come to a Barware show, but at the same time enjoy the natural beauty of our region, I think that's a wonderful compliment.
Yeah, we're pretty well poised. You know, we're 30 minutes south of Columbus, 20 minutes north of Hocking Hills, which is the most visited place in Ohio. They get over 5 million visitors a year. So there are plenty of accommodations within 30 minutes for lodging, but also just other activities to enjoy even beyond our events. So we feel pretty lucky for that. And then even for folks that want to drive in, right here in Ohio, we're pretty central to many other major cities within a 6-hour drive.
Yeah.
So if you're up for a road trip, come on in.
Yeah.
We had people online that were like, "Oh, that's only 12 hours away. I'm coming. I'm driving."
Yeah, sure.
And I'm like, "Okay."
Well, I got to say, I go to a lot of things around the country, and you guys have been supremely organized about this.
Thank you.
Very
Thank
tight,
you.
very together.
Yeah.
You've got a great staff. You had the normal sort of bumps along the way, and things have been fixed and paid attention to. I just can't commend you more highly.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
this
It's
is
Thank
really
you.
great.
The first time we've ever done anything like this, so we had a lot
Except
of
for your wedding. I
well,
think that counts.
yeah. But it's really been pretty amazing.
So second time.
Yeah, how many people have literally just stepped in and been so supportive. We've had so many amazing volunteers, especially here at the show. We have a wonderful nonprofit called Rise Up Arts Alliance, and they have run our kitchen and food service here. And they have just been so phenomenal in getting the building open and helping all the vendors and just going above and beyond. And we're excited for that because all the proceeds from the food and beverage for the entire weekend is going to them as a fundraiser.
Yes.
So we are so excited to support their mission of helping people, adults and children with disabilities, participate in performing arts. And they've been a wonderful organization here in town, and we're excited to see them do really well this weekend.
Well,
Yeah.
guys, this is just so great, and thank you so much for putting it on and for having us here. Look forward to seeing you next year.
Absolutely, George. And thank
Thank
you
you.
for being here and having us on.
That was George with David and Jason Annecy. Josh Agle, a.k.a. Shag, is a uniquely successful artist and illustrator. His trademark is taking iconic scenes from the Modernist era and creating distinctively artistic, humorous scenes celebrating the Palm Springs lifestyle in vividly colored, sharply rendered works of art. Shag lives in a mid-century house, much like the ones in his paintings, and he's a fixture at Modernism Week, and Palm Springs is the headquarters for his Shag stores. He's even got his own line of Breeze Block. But Shag hit the road this past summer and was in Ohio for the Bottoms Up event where he spoke, standing room only, at the Fairfield County Library. Later, Shag sat down with George Smart.
So, Josh, we're usually by a pool. when
I
we started
know.
talking to each other. But here we are in Lancaster, Ohio.
Yeah, it's a charming town, actually. I'm really impressed with it.
The organization of these guys and putting together this festival here in this small town is really incredible. They've done such a good job.
Yeah, really. And this is the first year, and it's already, I mean, from the outside looking in, it seems seamless. So they've done a great job.
Yesterday, I got to watch you give a presentation. I never heard you speak before, to a packed house of about 250 in the Fairfield County Library, which sounds small, but is pretty big, actually. And telling the story about how you got into art and how you're exploring different elements of this sort of mid-century vibe, and your own personal story about how you were taking a 10-year break from drinking.
Yes.
So how far are you into the 10 years?
I'm actually at 11 years.
Okay.
When 10 years ended, I assessed things and said, okay, do I want to start drinking? You know, I love drinking. It was my hobby. But I thought, you know, life's a lot easier without drinking. So I'm going to wait a few more years and then reassess again.
Yeah, kind of a waiting period.
Yeah.
Right.
And I talked about having to get my kids through college, and then I was going to start drinking again. But my daughter is in her first year of med school this year.
Oh,
so
nice.
I have another at least 3 years that I have to work really hard to pay for that.
I believe I met your daughter at one of our parties that you brought her
she came to the
Sheets Goldstein?
Sheets Goldstein house.
Sheets Goldstein house? Mm-hmm. Really cool. Where is she in med school?
She's at USC.
Okay. Well, great med school. Wow.
I told her to, you know, accept the best med school that accepted her, and it just happened to be one of the most expensive ones in the country.
So you got to sell a lot of art to do that, right? You have set up a pop-up store here in town.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, I created a special print just for this event. It's called Chin Chin. It's some beautiful women with a lot of glassware. And we had a pop-up yesterday after my talk, and we basically sold out of everything yesterday. We have a few unframed prints left. We're supposed to do another pop-up today, but we really don't have anything to sell. So I may cancel that.
Well, that's fantastic.
The response here has just been overwhelming. I'm really, really surprised by it.
And you have an exhibition here as well?
Yes, I have an exhibition at DECO, which is the Decorative Arts Center of Ohio. Upstairs in the museum, they have an exhibition about 60s design, so mod sort of furniture, fashions, things like that. And then they gave me the lower floor.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what would people see at the exhibition?
They will see some recent silk screens that I've done. They've done a couple walls as murals, and there's also a video playing where I explain my entire process and how I create these silk screens from sketch to final product.
Well, I'm hoping, just because I see a lot of these, that there's a documentary in the works before you die, because usually it's after somebody dies that they do the documentary.
Yeah, I sometimes think about that, but...
Because, you know, it's fascinating how successful you become and how people have really gotten into this vibe that you create through your work.
Yeah, I'm surprised by it as well. You know, when I first came to Palm Springs, it wasn't really a fashionable place. You know, it was a place old people retired to. There was a lot of mid-century architecture, but there wasn't a lifestyle or anything. But I knew from books and magazines that it had that lifestyle, and that's what I started painting. And over time, other people had the same idea. Some people were inspired by my art. You know, this is what we want Palm Springs to be like. Other people had looked at the same magazines and movies I had and said, we want to recreate this in Palm Springs.
Oh, sure. There is that movie, The Incredibles, which had a whole mid-century modern vibe. They lived in that kind of house.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think that was probably a lot of people's introduction to that style, especially if they were younger. And they did such a great job in that movie. You wanted to live in that universe.
You really did. And the sequel was just as good as the first one.
Yeah, that house was John Lautner inspired.
Yes.
Just amazing.
I've mentioned this on interviews we've done before, but one of the things I really love about your art is the kind of honesty that it has in it. Because you have these Playboy-type guys who are looking around kind of leering, and then you have these women who are just, stunning, but also giving disapproving looks at these idiots across the way.
Yeah, the male-female relationship plays out a lot in my work, and I like to think in most of my paintings, the women have the upper hand.
Yes, right. And the glamour of the whole thing with the settings, the furniture, the detail of the lighting, and the way that people are interacting with each other in these really does create a stirring feeling of excitement when you look at them.
Yeah, that's what I'm going for. I mean, originally what I was painting was aspirational. You know, I was painting parties I wanted to go to and houses I wanted to be in. And over time, you know, my life started looking more like the art.
So, speaking of that, you have a flagship store in Palm Springs.
Yes.
Where people can go right there on North Palm Canyon.
Yeah.
That people can get all-you-can-eat Shag.
It's ground zero for Shag.
What is there? What kind of different things are there?
Well, besides, you know, the art, a lot of print editions, there's a lot of more rare art that you won't see online, things that have sold out. The store will seek those out.
Okay.
So on the resale market, so you might see things you haven't seen for a decade being available. We also have clothing I've designed, books, records, everything Shag, beach towels.
Oh, great. Yes.
You name it, yeah.
Beach towels. Now, have you made it on the cruise ship art circuit yet? Because that's when you know you've really hit the big time.
I've had a couple cruise ship lines inquire, and I've said no. I actually have a friend who shows art on a cruise ship.
Yeah.
But it's kind of, it's a little bit of a racket because they pose it as an art collector's seminar.
Yes.
So people are like, oh, well, I want to learn about art collecting. And then they present them with the art, usually of just one artist, and tell them how this is going to increase in value and this is a great investment opportunity. And then people buy the art on the cruise ship.
Yeah.
But one of our policies at the Shag store is we never sell the art as an investment.
Okay.
We sell it as if you like it, buy it. People can look at it. The value goes up. You know, they can see, oh, that print, I came in here 6 months ago, you know, and that print was $1,500 and now it's $2,000. Or people come in and they're like, I bought this print 5 years ago. Now I see one on the wall and it's 4 times as much.
Right.
So they know it's going up in value, but we never use that as a selling point.
Well, thank you for that. There's some integrity left in retail. Besides the store, you designed a house,
yes,
which premiered last year in Palm Springs. It's called the Shag House now.
Yes.
It's not actually your house, but you did all the work to put it together and design it, and it's fantastic. I've been to a couple parties there now.
Thank you. Yeah, they gave me carte blanche. I mean, I had to work within sort of a budget, but the budget doubled over time because I kept presenting.
As budgets do?
Yeah, and I kept showing them these renderings, and they were like, oh, that's not in the budget. Well, we have to make that work, so... That was an amazing project. It was a project where I was pulling my hair out at points. I never yell at anyone, but I was yelling at the contractor. But it finally got finished. And when you're so close to a project, sometimes you're like, are people going to like this? Am I doing anything that people haven't seen before? Mm-hmm. You're just too close to it. And then seeing people's reactions when they first came into the house, I was like, okay, it was what I hoped it was.
Yes, it really is. Basically, sort of, everywhere you look, there's a scenario of something.
Yeah. We called them moments.
Yeah.
So you could look at something and have a moment.
What are some of the most exciting moments that you created in the house?
I think the operation game. Mm-hmm. Remember the kids' game?
Milton Bradley.
Yes.
You got the tweezers, trying to pull the funny bone out of the guy.
Yeah. A huge operation game hanging on the wall, but you're pulling bottles of alcohol out of a drunk guy, basically.
And this is a life-size, right?
This is
human-size operation game.
And the only organ he actually has is an enlarged liver, which you can pull out.
That's hilarious. And the pool has this really cool sort of, I guess, tiki-style bar in it?
Yeah, and kind of space age with a round roof. Uh-huh. And then there's a lounge with one of those freestanding fireplaces like you see in my paintings. And there's fun stuff to do. There's a little sort of tiki-themed ping pong area, and each of the bedrooms is themed out. So, they let me kind of run wild with my imagination.
And the good news is that if you want to stay in the Shag House, you can. You can rent it.
Yes, it's available for rent. It's also available for events. If you want to have a fundraiser there or some other sort of event, it's available for that.
Oh, cool. Is there a website for the house?
Yes, shaghouse.com.
Oh, well, there you go. Josh, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thank you, George.
And, it's a pleasure to see you at another place.
Thank you.
That was George with Josh Agle, a.k.a. Shag. Amy Chastek is known nationwide as the Barware Lady. For 20 years, she's been selling and trading mid-century barware through the internet. This year, she was a major attraction at the Bottoms Up Expo, and she's a true authority on anything you might want to put a beverage in. Here's George's conversation with Amy Chastek.
Amy, this is not your first barware rodeo, is it? You've been doing this a while.
I have.
How did you start?
Vintage barware has basically been part of my life since birth. My grandfather owned a bar, like an old school, small town bar in the 50s, 60s, and he closed it in the 70s. So I was surrounded by all the barware for paraphernalia and signs and those beautiful things like Paps and Blatz and whatnot made. That was just part of my life growing up because my grandpa's house was filled with it. So that's really where the love started.
And how did the business start?
The business started because I was a collector, and I had been collecting for many, many, many years. And at some point, you collect to the point where you either have too much of something or you're getting rid of something to put something else in because you've got too much. So I started selling it on eBay 20 years ago, and then that kind of morphed into my selling just very hard to find and rare barware. So I primarily focus in those areas. If you need radio barware, I'm your girl. I collect.
What's radio barware?
Radio bars were a result of Prohibition. It's a radio, a Philco radio that has a hidden bar in it. So you open it up and there's a bar. And there are less than 10,000 made total over the course of about 7 years. So they're very hard to find. And when you find the actual radio cabinets, it's hard to find the glassware because, it was made in the 1930s.
Yeah.
So it's gone. It's broken. It's rummage sailed off. And, people don't know what it is. So I kind of specialize in that as well.
So what is the holy grail of barware? What's the most elusive, rarest stuff to find these days?
That depends on the collector. One man's treasure is another man's trash. There's a lot of different styles out there. What a tiki collector is going to like is different than what a mid-century person's going to like, and that's different than what an elegant glass person's going to like. So I can't really say that there's one rare piece that everyone's after. It all depends on what your interest is.
During the height of mid-century modernism, I've always wondered, did any of the celebrities start their own lines of barware?
I don't know that they started their own lines, but there are some pieces out there that were made for events. There's a Bob Hope glass that we recently came across that has his face and signature on it. That's pretty kind of fun and cool. So there's examples like that, but nothing that I can think of that was specific to a celebrity.
I know that he did a whole lot of golf tournaments.
Correct.
So I'm sure there was something connected with.
This was actually for a party.
For a party?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And the person who bought it got it at an auction, and the person that was selling it from the auction had got it at his estate sale or his estate auction. It was a party at his house for some award he got or retirement or closing of a show, something like that.
Yeah. Now, where do you source most of your inventory? Is it from estates?
Estates, auctions, marketplace, Facebook. I go on eBay sometimes and look. And I have a group of people out there looking for me.
Yes.
Connections
you have a lot
all
of
over.
people on your Facebook group.
Yeah,
How many?
our Facebook group has almost 85,000 people.
Okay.
And it is a group of fellow collectors who appreciate and love vintage barware. And then it also enjoys an occasional libation. We were started...
That should be the name of a boat, the Occasional Libation.
The Occasional Libation, yes. I started it about 12 years ago, and we lingered at 20,000 members for years.
Yeah.
And when COVID hit, we exploded. People stopped going out.
Yeah.
They started drinking at home, and they really discovered the love of their vintage barware that they had. And our group has just been growing like crazy ever since COVID.
Well, this is really great because my wife has tasked me with finding a particular kind of glass.
Oh.
I'll ask you about later.
Absolutely.
Probably is somewhere in your universe.
I might have one.
What have you thought so far of the Bottoms Up Festival?
Oh my God, it's been wonderful. It's been wonderful to be surrounded by fellow barware dealers and collectors. The excitement that is generated with the individuals coming in to shop has been wonderful. The ancillary events have been wonderful. The Tiki Takeover, the fashion show, the house tours. It's been a great, great weekend.
It's an incredible number of events here in town and organizations pulling together to make this happen. You can tell this is going to be a thing.
This is going to be a thing. And my prediction is next year it's going to be at least twice as big as this.
Yeah.
If not bigger.
We're going to have to get a bigger Masonic lodge.
Bigger libation boat.
Amy, what is your Facebook group again? So
Our
people can look it
Facebook
up?
group is MCM and Vintage Cocktail and Barware.
Okay.
Yep. And my business is the Barware Lady. If you're looking for a rare piece of barware that you just can't find or something that you've wanted forever, let me know and I'll try to see if I can source it for you.
Okay. Thanks for coming by.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening. U.S. Modernist Radio is underwritten by June Goldfinger and Jeff Taylor, sponsors of Circle, Square, Triangle, a traveling exhibition on the architecture of Myron Goldfinger, and by Diane Bald and the Budman family, restoring significant architecture in Toronto, Malibu, Los Angeles, and Palm Springs. Okay, Tom, I shall now say the line of dialogue that's in the movies most number of times.
Oh, we're going to need a bigger blender?
No.
There's no place like Rome? I love you?
Well, I love you too, Tom, but that's not it.
Oh.
The line is, let's get out of here.
Oh, and away we go. Visit USModernist.org's massive archives to listen to past shows, discover documentation of 23,000 significant modernist houses, and access 4.3 million pages of classic 20th century architecture magazines. U.S. Modernist Radio is produced by Soundtracks Recording Studios in Raleigh, North Carolina. Our theme song is performed by George Smart and Robinson Earl, with guest research by Kelly Policelli and Ryan Van Sickle. U.S. Modernist Radio is a production of Modernist Archive Incorporated, a nonprofit educational archive for the documentation, preservation, and promotion of modernist residential design. I'm Tom Guild. George and I'll be back soon with another glass-raising barware edition of U.S. Modernist Radio.